Okay, you are live.
Okay, let's call to order the City Council special meeting, June 21st. Are we doing the roll, whatever you call that thing, the Christina tells us it's the Brown Act on steroids, or?
Yes. Hold on, bear
You're
with
up.
me for just one moment.
Okay.
I have a lot of windows open right now. Okay. So the meetings adopted for the procedures adopted for this meeting meet or exceed the standards set forth in Governor Newsom's Order N-25-20, which allows public meetings like this one to be held by teleconference to help prevent the spread of COVID-19. At this time, I will conduct roll, and I would ask the mayor to recognize me afterward to confirm certain matters for the record. Councilmember Armstrong.
Here.
Councilmember Veros.
Here.
Councilmember Zafar.
Here.
Vice Mayor Perkins.
Here.
And Mayor Hudson.
Here, City Clerk has the floor.
Based on the responses to roll call, the record should reflect that all council members can hear the proceedings clearly. And if there are no objections, the record will further reflect that each council member believes, based on voice or facial recognition or otherwise, that the persons representing themselves to be council members are in fact council members. See no objection. Thank you. Seeing no objection, I will turn the meeting back over to the mayor with a reminder that the votes must be taken by roll call.
Okay, thank you. Public comment is now open. Now's the time to address the council on the one item that is on the agenda, and that is the interviews for the appointments to the Parks and Community Service. Obviously, if you're a candidate, you don't need to speak during public comment, but if there's anyone else, and I'm looking, I see 11 attendees that wishes to address us. Now would be the time. Going once. Last call. Seeing none. Public comment is closed. Let's get on to the 3.1, the Parks and Community Service Commission interviews and appointments. Tell us what we're doing tonight.
Before we move on, I just wanted to make, for the record, we did receive one written comment for this item this evening, and I did send it out to the council.
Okay.
And it was received from Susie Ferris Indercombe.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so I will go ahead and I will bring in all 10 candidates into the meeting right now, and then we can get the forum underway.
Okay.
I noticed Ravneet and Richard have 2 sign-ins. If you could raise the hand in which account you want me to promote, thank you. And Richard, please raise your hand on the device you want to use.
Okay. I don't know. Richard's not having any luck there.
There he goes.
There it is. Okay.
So
Who do we have?
1, 2, 3.
Will, Rodney. Okay. We got everybody?
We have all 10, yes.
Okay. Do you want to explain what we're doing tonight, or you want me to mess it up?
So this evening, we have 10 candidates applying for 3 positions on the Parks and Community Services Commission. It is a 4-year term that starts July 1st of this year, and it goes until June 30th of 2025. We will start with 1 minute for opening statements for each candidate, and then each council member will ask 1 question, and we'll go through the 10 candidates, and then the next council member will ask the second question. I will let you know the order and who will be asking the question, and I can always repeat the order as we go. And then after the 5 council members have asked their individual question, we will move to closing statements, and you'll have 1 minute for your closing statement.
And you have the list of who's doing the opening statements first?
Yeah, so everything is in random order. No one knows the order except for myself.
Yeah.
The council has
including us.
The council has not even seen this order as well. So it is completely at random. So Mayor, if you're ready, we can get started, or if you'd like to say anything.
No, I would just say you will be given a minute. It always runs over. Don't worry about it, to tell us a little bit about yourself. And then we'll do this questioning that Christina will randomly pick who will be answering it, starting with, for example, I'm doing the first question. Mark will do the second one. Sabina will do the third. We'll let you guess who the last two are. After we're done with that, we'll ask if there's anything more you'd like to ask of us or add within a minute or two. We will then kick you all out and discuss it amongst us, make a decision tonight, and then you will be notified by the city clerk tomorrow. Assuming we're not still deliberating tomorrow, but we've been pretty good about it before that. So trying to set you a little at ease. Sometimes this can be a little nerve-wracking, but in any case, let me turn this back over to the city clerk and she will call your name and then you will do about a minute plus. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yep.
Go ahead.
So the first person for the opening statement will go to Kumar.
I guessed it. Good evening, Christina, and Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, and every fellow candidate. And so my name is Kumar Nalisamy. I live in San Ramon, and I'm a community volunteer and support. I do run our area park and our open area, which is very exciting. And now is the corona is getting better. So to connect everybody. So in this one, because I've been very track record is helping community, connect with the community. So if I get opportunity, I will get my core strength, the working area, what I have innovative, changing things differently. I can contribute, I can make a successful person for the community support. Thank you again. Appreciate it.
Next.
The next is Carol.
You're muted, Carol. But I thought it was a great speech.
Good afternoon, Mayor Hudson and council members. Thank you for giving me this opportunity as to why I want to continue to be a commissioner. Serving on the commission has brought me to understand the importance of the commission and how it relates to the council and to other areas of the city. Some of my past experience have been planning for parks, making sure that the community needs are met. Also, I've been a liaison to planning, EDAC, and the arts. I've worked with staff to bring projects to fruition. And my leadership and organization skills benefited the city through other organizations as well, such as the San Ramon Historic Foundation, raising money for the historic park and its history. San Ramon students having shared their art talents and display at the Lindsay Derrick Museum, sponsored by the Dublin San Ramon Women's Club. But now we have rapid growth and cultural change in our city, which we must embrace. The commission must look forward to meeting and setting new goals to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Kumar. Who's next?
Will Dorlick.
Will.
Thank you so much. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, and honored applicants. Thank you for the opportunity of continuing my service to the city of San Ramon. I have called home for 28 years. I can speak to my body of work with the city, the Chamber of Commerce, and the Art Foundation, but tonight is about going forward, not looking back. Parks and community services is the spirit, heart, and soul of our community. This has been demonstrated no better than the last 15 months of extraordinary service to the most at-risk residents. The culture of service and innovation starts at the top with Director Hyman and extends throughout the organization, with the key elements of compassion, transparency, inclusion, listen first, then act, and a results-oriented approach. The most critical recreation program and park facility need is not a single program, activity, or class. It is to maintain the level of service, innovation, and commitment to excellence. That is the culture of the organization. Critical success factors are consistency in execution and innovation, service to all segments of the community, and a focus on emerging trends as the community continues to evolve and be enriched by the inclusion of cultures, new residents, and differing perspectives.
Thank you, Will. Who's next?
Ravneet.
Ravneet?
All right. Good evening, all. Hey, how are you doing?
Great.
I just want to apologize for the disco soundtrack. I don't know if it's carrying through. My family, we are camping at Emerald Bay right now, and I came out to a local Starbucks for this. So just a little background about myself. I grew up in San Ramon, Walt Disney Elementary, Pine Valley, Cal High 95. My family's been here since the early 80s. I recently, about a year and a half ago, brought my family back from Georgia to live here just because I can't imagine a better place to raise my children or for have them grow up. Professionally, I am an attorney. I have worked with Parks and Rec, both as a coordinator when I was 16 years old, then as a city attorney for the city of Macon. My job was to advise city council. We reviewed city ordinances, we reviewed contracts, we went over planning. I mean, pretty much anything you could think of, we did. So in terms of experience, I feel like I've got it, and I certainly have the enthusiasm and love for San Ramon. Thank you.
Thank you, Ravneet. I still think you graduated with my younger son. Who's next?
Patrick Gutierrez.
Patrick?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, fellow candidates, fellow council members, and Mayor Hudson. Thank you for your question and your public service. My name is Patrick Gutierrez, and to tell you a little bit about myself, my public service and love for the parks began in 8th grade when I volunteered at the Youth Service Corps for the city of Fremont and helped paint buildings and fences and clean up local parks like Lake Elizabeth. It continued as an adult with my love for the city of San Ramon when I moved here in 2012 and my public service here. I've been on the Arts Advisory Committee for the City of San Ramon for over 2 years now. I also serve on the San Ramon Arts Foundation. And as you all know, the Arts Foundation is only one of 4 nonprofits that work directly with the City of San Ramon. I've worked with KKIQ, KKDV Radio for over 17 years as a problem solver and visionary, working with various cities, nonprofits. I've also worked with San Ramon for the Run for Education, Bishop Ranch, helping promote the Holly Festival. I've worked with neighboring cities of Danville, Lafayette, and Martinez to help promote and drive traffic to their culturally diverse events, and worked with, again, many nonprofits. Many of the events have taken place at the local parks and have been inclusive. Part of my job has been to know what's going on in the community and help with the marketing to drive traffic to the community events. I have a track record of utilizing public-private partnerships. In my closing, I will let you know some of the things I've contributed with on the Arts Advisory Committee and Arts Foundation and why I would be an excellent choice for the Parks Commission if fortunate enough to be selected. Stay tuned. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Next,
Partha Mitra.
where'd you go? Where is she?
Here you go. Good afternoon, Mayor Hudson.
You didn't
Vice
get
Mayor.
that at all, did you? I did the same thing the last time. We have talked since then. Okay, never mind. Go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mayor Hudson, Vice Mayor Parkins, Council Member Zafar, Council Member Burrows, Council Member Armstrong, and fellow San Ramon resident. I'm very happy and excited today to be in front of you to talk about San Ramon Parks Commission and my interest to put forth my candidacy for this position. Personally, I'm a very social person, have been pretty involved with our diverse community since we moved in San Ramon almost 9 years back. A lot has changed since then. We have been seeing our twin daughters growing up from pre-kindergarten to kindergarten, elementary, middle school, and we'll be starting high school later this year. Very proud moment for us. I have also seen our community growing and become more diverse each passing year, and always felt privileged and honored to be associated with the Parks Commission department, staff, and the 2 different advisory committees that I have been privileged to be associated with. For the last 4 years, I have been an advisory committee member, first with the library committee and then the art advisory committee. As part of the art advisory committee, I and other committee members have worked with city staff to decide and implement the multiple city projects like utility boxes, selection of public and private art, selection of gallery, display artist name, to name a few. Few of my friends and I started Agamoni, a San Ramon-based 501c3 nonprofit organization for community building and philanthropy. One of our flagship community building event is our Durga Puja at Central Park. This weekend-long event has become one of the biggest private events in the Tri-Valley area, and San Ramon it has become identified as San Ramon event lately, and normally attended by around 4,000 people. I've been very closely working with City Parks Department, staff, fire, police, and county food and health department. San Ramon City was the official partner for our 2019 event. I'm very excited and hopeful with what is going on with the city now, especially with the projects like 10 years master plan, city walks and city village projects. And I will keep actively involved as much as the city needs me and as much as I can help the way I can. Thank you.
Thank you, Partha. Who's next?
Sean Collins.
Sean?
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, council members, and candidates. For my opening statement, I'll tell you who I am and why I'm here again. My name is Sean Collins. I'm a teacher at Twin Creeks and the rec program director at San Ramon FC, Region 16 representative for Cape Bird, which is the California Physical Education, Recreation, and Dance organization. Director of high school hockey for the Tri-Valley Blue Devils. Recently completed the San Ramon Valley Unified School District Leadership Development Program. I applied to the San Ramon Leadership Development Program on the recommendation of past Mayor Bill Clarkson. My undergraduate degree is in recreation management with a master's in technology leadership. Before I began teaching, I spent time in the front office with the San Jose Sharks in their community development department. And now I want to bring it all together and focus on the community. So why I'm here, I grew up here. I'm involved in the community in the recreation and community service field on multiple levels with various user groups and stakeholders. My fiance and I, we're getting married this weekend, actually on Saturday. We bought a home here in San Ramon, and we're here for the long term. So the sooner I can become involved, the better.
Thank you, Sean. We perform weddings here. Who's next?
Steve.
Thank you very much. Mayor Hudson, council members, fellow applicants, thank you so much for your time tonight. And as you know, you guys have seen me a couple of times this year about the Parks Commission. It's because I'm very passionate about this committee for a number of reasons. I've lived here in San Ramon for 25 years. I've been involved as president of San Ramon Soccer for 4, vice president of a number of our little league for 5 years, and been a merit badge counselor for athletic. I'm a merit badge I ran with athletics, which dealt a lot with parks for the Boy Scouts, and several site committees for Gale Ranch and Doherty Valley. And the reason why I bring all that up is I've had a lot of experiences within that with the parks. And I know that where we live, the parks does a great job to delight our citizens. I want to continue to do that, delight our citizens and make the parks another reason why people want to move to San Ramon. But I do see we need to get ahead of trends, and there's still some trends we need to get ahead of, like we're losing a pool. We need to get ahead of pickleball. We need more cricket pitches. So how do we get ahead of certain trends? And I do believe there's a strong need that we continue to get ahead of that to delight this community. So that's one of the main reasons I'm applying. So thank you. I'm out my minute.
Thank you, Steve.
Yep.
Who's next?
Richard.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Hudson, Vice Mayor Perkins, members of the City Council. It's good to be back here amongst a lot of familiar faces. I am very happy to be interviewing, and I appreciate your time and all you do for the city of San Ramon. I want to tell you a little bit about my background. I grew up in Los Altos, which when I got here kind of reminded me of that area. Went to school at UC Berkeley, later got a law degree and worked for State Farm Insurance for 30 years. Since my retirement, I have been getting more and more involved in the community. I'm in the San Ramon Doherty Valley Rotary Club. I have taken the classes to learn more about the city. And I am also on the Greystone Ranch Board of Directors. So I would very much like to preserve and improve our parks and community services. And I look forward to talking to you a little bit as we get into the interview.
Thank you. Who's next?
Dinesh.
Dinesh.
Hey, hi, how you all doing? Thanks, Mayor Hudson and council members. And it's great to be back again with all the other applicants. Just a little bit again about myself. I'm very vested in, in this city. There's not too many people that can really say they're raised here and then move back to this city. I've called San Ramon my home for 42 years. I was a local kid here, moved here in 1979 when started off at Neil Armstrong, and then later on graduated at Cal High in 1988, and then went off to UC Berkeley, so stayed local. We moved back here and then raised our family here, 4 kids, 2 finished at Doherty Valley, and then one's going to be a senior next year, another one's going to be starting there as a freshman. You know, I've been involved with a lot of volunteer activities, especially with youth, when it comes to coaching youth sports, as well as being a director and ServGal. I've been doing that for 12 years while I was here as my kids were growing up. And then during that time, I also was on the PTA at Live Oak, served 2 years as a financial secretary, and then 2 years as a reflections chair. So did that as well. And now recently, I'm on the Library Advisory Committee and serving also on the SRVSD task force, and also applying for the San Ramon Valley Leadership Academy. You know, I have a passion for serving and want to give back. And, you know, I look at, as you all know, I'm a physician, and I love to have fun too. And I look at Parks and Community Parks and Rec here as sort of that intersection of having fun and improving the quality of life. And, you know, and that's sort of, you know, and I'd be honored to be able to serve as a Parks Commissioner and be able to have a positive impact, you know, in our city here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Dinesh. I think that's all of them. Are we ready for the first question? We're going to, again, try and keep it to a minute. As you saw, that's not as easy as it looks. And that's okay too, because I think your council is looking for people with passion. It just, sometimes it helps to set a little time limit and maybe even a little harder, not stop, but I mean, give you an idea that you get your initial points across, and they're the ones that are the most important, and we're watching. So let's get on to the first question, which will be mine. And then Christina will randomly pick which one of you will be answering, so be prepared. Parks and Community Services deals with many parks and many programs. I want you to focus on the programs. Are there any that you'd like or would like to discuss? Any you would add, or any you would change? In other words, what can you tell us about how you feel about our programming? And Christina, would you call the first of 10?
Before, Mayor, can we just confirm, is it a 2 minute per question or 1 minute? I believe
we're going to say 1, but as you just saw, it goes to 2. If I say 2, it's kind of like our speed limits. If I told you 60, we'll be doing 80. But
Okay.
it's okay. I am watching it. I see the quadruple 8 zeros in front of me. It's difficult, and I don't think, unless the council wants to overrule me here, that if somebody goes 1 minute and 30, we'll be fine. If they want to go a little longer, we'll frown. But the idea is to try and get your main ideas out, what you think, because there are 10 of you. So we're saying 1 minute, and everybody, I'm looking at nodding of the head. If it goes over 1 minute, nobody's going to shoot. Okay?
Thank you.
About right? Let's do it.
The first person will be Will Dorlick.
Hey, Will, you're up. Did you want to hear it again?
Please.
It is. I want you to focus on the programs. Are there any that you like, dislike, any you would add that we don't have now, any that you would change? In other words, what can you tell us about how you feel about our programming in the city of San Ramon?
Well, the program has always evolved and changed as the community has changed. A couple of the programs that are very, very critical, and I think really serve the community well, are the summer camps. So the summer camps are a variety of different activities, drama, sports, etc. So it really appeals to a wide variety of the youth. Other areas and programs are in the pools. And you know, we responded quite well with the you know, when had the issue with the golf course a couple of years ago to accommodate that. So that's just a little bit of the innovation and the change that we have an opportunity to look at. And then the cultural programs and arts are very important to the community. We see those evolving with some of the newer, such as the social justice and a few of those other programs. We're seeing the programs come back with the Doherty Valley Performing Arts Center, and that the community utilizes those programs quite extensively. They're just not there for you know, the national acts or you know, the regional acts. The majority of those that come into the Doherty Valley Performing Arts Center are local organizations like Partha's organizations that utilize the facilities to bring their message to the community. And that's really what's important, is that there's an avenue for different organizations within the community to utilize the facilities and the programs, such as the Cultural Art Program, which helps with the funding for communities and brings those opportunities so that everybody has the ability to be enriched by each other in the community. That's really what brings us together as a community, is the programs, the arts, the services. It's the heart and soul of San Ramon.
Thank you, Will. Next.
Ravneet?
Now, see, if I'd said 2 minutes, we'd still be going. So go ahead, Ravneet.
Well, I'm gonna be honest. The trial lawyer in me sees a clock, and I try to stick to it. So I will try to hold to it as best I can. So
You'll get points from this council. Go ahead.
okay. So I feel like I'm in a little bit of a unique position. I have 4 kids, and of those 4, 3 are currently utilizing San Ramon Parks and Rec programs. I have my youngest, who's in Little Dribblers, which we have absolutely loved, all the way up to my 16-year-old, who is actually a camp counselor at one of our summer camps. We also did a drone camp, which we have loved. But out of all the camps that we've done this year and in the past also, I think the camp that my daughter is a counselor for right now is amazing. It's, you know, Adventure for Sports, Crazy, or Adventure Camp, Crazy for Sports. Those programs, especially right now, when we're coming out of a pandemic, we have young children who haven't been in school for the past year and a half. They're coming together for the first time, and they're relearning how to socialize, how to talk to each other, how to be with each other. And I think right now that is critical. In general, I think team sports are fantastic. Learning how to work with each other, learning how to talk to each other properly, learning how to be a part of a team is crucial and just amazingly important as a life skill. Programs that I would improve upon, I would probably like to see some programs dedicated to job skills for teenagers. You know, not in terms of how do you do work, but how do you send a thank you letter? How do you respond to people? How do you interact as a, you know, semi-adult? I would love to see a class like that, but overall, I love the programs, so can't say more than that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ravneet. And before Christina calls the next person, if anybody wants me to repeat the question or any of the other council members, it's okay to say, can you repeat it? Go ahead, Christina, who's next?
Patrick?
Thank you. So I would say 3 things. One of them would be we need more multicultural programs at the San Ramon Senior and Community Center. I think that's a big thing, our aging population, and I think we need more programs to appeal to them. So I think that would be number 1. Number 2, we have we don't have a name for it, I guess, completely yet, but the library election reform sign project. I think that's excellent. I know it's a pilot program right now, and it's only going to Central Park, 2 locations for a month or 2, from my understanding on that. So I would expand that and maybe bring it to every park in San Ramon to create exposure. I think that would be a great program. And then lastly, I would definitely say, you know, more program. We don't have something, I would think like a student film festival. I think that would be a great tie-in. I work on the Art Foundation, and we've created the first ever virtual film club through the city of San Ramon and the San Ramon Art Foundation. We have 3 movies that we've done successfully under our belt. And we've tied it in with the Contra Costa libraries and helped get signups for library cards. So I think maybe a student film festival, something like that would be something great for the kids. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Patrick. Who's next?
Partha?
Partha?
Hello, good morning, Mayor. Yeah, so it's definitely very important program for me. So things that I look for, I think we do have a pretty good coverage of the programs that the city and the Parks Recreation Department offers. Things like summer camps, things like senior programs, things like art and music, things on the aquatics like team and aquabeer, all those different programs covers all ages and everything on that. So overall, if you ask me, I'm happy what we're doing it. Yes, I'm happy. Am I really satisfied that there's nothing cannot be done? No, I don't. I think definitely there are areas of improvement, just like everything else. So we're doing pretty good, but definitely with the diverse population changes, in the San Ramon city. I mean, we know that the diversity is constantly changing in this city. We have new folks coming in. I think diversity in the programs could be one interesting thing that we should be looking at. Diversity more on the ages. We do senior programs, but can we do more? Can we do different type of cultural people? They are coming to the new things, new senior programs, social challenges, and the teams. So again, I think Ravneet talked about kids coming out. I have 2 teenager kids who are going to high school, and they are just coming out of a year of COVID. And so they have lost a lot of social interaction opportunities. So is this something can be done to help these kids? I mean, so that would be really awesome, like if parents like me to use that opportunity to help my kids on that. And I'm pretty sure a lot of other parents will be looking for that kind of opportunity as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Partha. Who's next?
Sean?
Yeah, so I've got 3 areas that align with our recreation and community service master plan. So the first is continued diversification to match the shifting demographics, right? Continue to grow. The second would be the addition of those nature-based programs and equipment in our parks and open space. And the final one would be continued partnerships, such as the one that we have with San Ramon FC running the summer camps, because ultimately that's mutually beneficial for both the city and our local organizations. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Steve?
Thank you. Mayor Hudson, great question. I have 2 programs I go up there, but I'm focused on one. The one program that I love that I like to see expand is the Art and Win. Why do I think it's really important? I think it's important because it brings our community together. It also provides an outlet for clubs and organizations to raise money and interact. But most important thing, it provides us a chance to educate. I think what's missing is how do we tie more businesses? I think businesses are a very important part of our community that we need to continue to integrate into our community because they're very important to our tax base. And what I say is I'd like to see us do a harvest festival or some type of parade, or I think we need another program like that gets our community out and gets us together so we can celebrate our culture, or celebrate some type of fundraising, or also tie businesses into that type of event, because I think it brings our community together. We learn more about each other, and you can always say with what we've been through the last year, it gets us outside, and we need to do more of that. So that's what I would do.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Richard?
Richard?
Thanks for that question, Mr. Mayor. I've thought a lot about what needs to be done in our beautiful city. And although we have 2 groups of city citizens on each side of the spectrum, seniors and youth, I'm going to focus on seniors because, one, I am very impressed with what we have done as a city to help seniors with meals. I think during the pandemic, we handed out 41,000 meals, if I'm not mistaken. I also learned from a recent meeting that seniors are in this area and really in the whole world are continuing to grow. And by 2035, there are going to be more seniors, and that it's over 65 than under 19 or under 20. And so looking at the master plan, I know that we need more shading, we need more seating in the areas around the Iron Horse Trail and other adjoining trails that seniors rely on to get exercise, but in the hot summer they need, shade. And it is also essential, I think, because seniors have a tendency to stay inside, that we have these senior programs so that they can get together and interact and be more cohesive with the rest of the community. So that's why I just applaud what we've done for seniors in San Ramon.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Next.
Dinesh?
Dinesh? You're muted. But it was a great speech, Dinesh. You're still muted, Dinesh. It was an even better speech.
There we go. Is it better?
Yes.
for some reason my mouse was hovering over the button, but it wasn't clicking over. But no, thanks, Mayor Hudson, for asking that question. And I think before I can really answer that question, I think what I would like to do is I would like to reach out to the community and also make sure, we're getting surveys, we're looking for feedback, we're really looking to see, because bottom line is this is about the community. We need to figure out what they want, what are their needs, what are they looking to have. I've, like I said, been in San Ramon for a number of years, and I feel this is a great place. We're very fortunate to have so many programs. There's a multi-generational representation. When you pick up the book on the rec guide, I mean, you see so many different offerings, which is quite amazing. And my kids have been part of the program. My daughter was a camp counselor. I've coached in the city of San Ramon youth sports for a number of years. So I think there's this city offers a lot. If there's some things we could add, I would think looking, and we're starting to do that more, as more cultural programs as the demographics are changing. I like the arts, the social justice initiative that we have, and more programs to represent the marginalized, I think is important. More focus on team programs. And, and the last thing I would say is I think pickleball, that's great. I just got into it recently in the last couple, a couple months here. And I love it. I play competitive tennis, and pickleball is just fun. And it's an easy thing actually to do in the city, because you can just take the tennis courts, remark on those. They've done that at other courts, and it's super simple to do. So anyways, but I'm sorry, probably went a little over a minute. I'll stop there, but thank you for giving me the time to answer this.
Yeah, it's tough to hang to a minute, but it gets you to prioritize. I always say, anyway, Christina, who's next?
Kumar.
Kumar.
Hey, thank you for a great question, Mayor. I'm going to put it to the question. The mayor with the city tour was amazing when Bill Clarkson was doing it, and I would encourage you to do it with the trial. I think that will bring a more multicultural people, and it attracts all ages. That really helps. It's not only just walking. There are multiple things you can achieve. One is interacting with the people and get to know about city, is any innovative ideas, is so many things achieved in one area. And second thing is I want to look at it, how we really more effective. We can create a more water station or buttermilk for the hot sun area summer time. That will be more interactive for more people. If people come and pick a meal, people can come and pick up a buttermilk and water, at least you enjoy that. There are a lot of sponsors available. Even I would really willing to work if any program comes. Thank you again. Mayor.
Thank you. Christina, we do have one more, don't we?
Carol.
Yes.
I haven't forgotten her.
Thank you. I think our overall programs are very good, but I just think that we at the seniors are taking care of them and looking at them very carefully, because we are having lunches. This excludes, of course, with the COVID, but we have lunches for them. We have pool tables there. There's card games. There's way they can communicate with each other. One of the things I like is when the teens work with the seniors on teaching them better usage of their computers. And when we can go back and have their outings that they enjoy very much there also. I think what's great that we really have is beginning to really look at the different areas of cultural that we have in planning as for dancing and the music. And I think we need to expand in this, because our city is culturally becoming varied, and we need more of those things that I would like to see. For children, we have a lot of classes for dancing. We have an outside group that comes in and teaches a lot about, doing artistic things. Our summer camps are wonderful, because I think this year they'll even be more attractive because of wanting to have our students get out into the open. I think we have a wonderful teen council that takes an active role in our avenues that we do. We also do have, the city has a team job fair that they sponsor with other cities in the Dublin San Ramon Women's Club. That's been going, and it's very successful. More than 400 students can come there, learn to work with people, how to do a resume, workshops on their finances, best way to get into college. Our library has small children, excellent programs for our small children. And our parks, we try to keep up. I know there's many needs, more programs, more, as somebody mentioned, the shading that needs done. But I think also we have community gardens that anybody can take advantage of. The Art and Wind Festival is wonderful, and we have the 4th of July. And we remember our veterans, and also we have concerts in the park. I think we're trying to reach children, to the seniors, and there's always improvement in each, but I think we're doing a pretty fair job at that, but always have to have our eyes open for new avenues. Thank you.
Carol. Okay, that concludes all of all the answers we're going to get from my question. The next council member that has a question for you, unless City Clerk has something to intervene before I turn it over to Council Member Armstrong, and we'll just jump right back into it. Mark, you've got a question for everyone.
Sure. Good evening, candidates. We've got a publicly owned park system, and the city of San Ramon is known for the number and the quality of its parks in the system. So we've got like 57 parks, 4 community centers, 2 aquatic centers, 2 performing arts theaters, 2 gyms. I've probably screwed those numbers up, but maintaining facilities of this quality and quantity is a significant financial commitment for the city. What are the issues that must be considered, and how would you approach making decisions on allocating funding to continue to support our parks?
The first person is Dinesh.
All right, can you hear me? Hey, thank you, Councilmember Armstrong. Yeah, I just so I understand, would you mind just repeating that last part real quick?
Yeah, the last part is, is about funding, right? Maintaining facilities of this quality and quantity is a significant financial commitment. What are the issues that must be considered, and how would you approach making decisions on allocating funding to continue to support our parks?
Yeah, no, thank you, Councilmember Armstrong. Yeah, just thinking about that question. Thank you. That's a great question. And yes, I mean, it's a huge undertaking to have this many parks. And for us, I mean, we're very fortunate to live in the city to have all those available to us. And from a and that is, I imagine it's a financial burden, in a sense, but at the same time, we're looking at how do we look at the quality of life and improve that. And the way I think I would look and say, if we're going to allocate and figure out where the resources should go and shouldn't go, is really looking to see what the needs are of the city. And if, of our residents. And if certain things are more, if there's a more need for something, those are the areas I would allocate more funds to. If other areas we're finding are not being used as much, we may want to scale back on that and look at that on those areas. Some other things too I would look at too is, when it comes to funding, and other cities have done this, is looking at some type of public-private partnership. And I know the city of Pleasanton, they do that with some of their fields. And looking at those types of partnerships, I think, could help us with our funding and being able to provide programs that we may not be able to provide with our current budget, as it stands now. And I'll stop there. I don't want to go too long here.
Okay, thank you. And I'm happy to repeat the question for anybody.
Next is Kumar.
Kumar.
That's good. Thank you again. Great question, Mr. Armstrong. So I think the budget is always challenge. Okay, it's not easy to come. So how do you prioritize your budgeting? So when you look at the budgeting, it's like the park the utilization. You have to really focus on how do you really preventive maintenance, making sure not to really damage or anything. You can save that money. And the second thing is the undeveloped areas. Some of the parks you need to focus and spend the budget. But the coming back to the budget is always crisis. But one thing is I would recommend suggestion. There are a lot of sponsors available. Make it as I think 68 park, 57, right? So the park, each park, you can come up with each sponsor. You can name it this year or one big sponsor. They can really give that big chunk of money to really take care of the budget. That is another way of really allocating more budget. I think there are many key areas to at least interact with local business people and community support to get involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Carol?
Yes, we have the facilities. In our facilities, we have just renovated the San Ramon Community Center and Senior Center, and the Community Center. Now, I think that we have to place those on order of how we update them and keep them up to date because they're new avenues are coming on board all the time that you can have them change. On Valderey Valley now it's coming up, and having worked there with a lot of fundraisers, I think you need to really look and go to the people who have used them and see what is really needed. And then you have to approach financially how we can do that. But I think that we do that on a rotating basis, that you allow in the budget how we're going to continue to renovate and keep our facilities up to date. I think we have to do that with our little theaters and the Dove Pack. We have to continually look at avenues of how they're used, how much they're used, and again, have a planning so that we can, look at those. In the parks, I think we have those on a rotating basis because now that we have all these wonderful parks that have been new at one time, now they're older and they have to be maintained. So I think if we have on a rotating basis of how many we're going to do each year to make sure that they're going to get updated equipment, new equipment, it's what's ever, in the upcoming. But that way you can budget for them. Of course, there's always going to be emergencies. We have to have an emergency budget. And I know the pools have to continually be checked out and really reviewed because those two take a lot of money. But I think we need to bring these things to the attention of before budgeting to make sure that we're covering all avenues for budgeting for our facilities and our pools and our all the facilities and parks. So I think that we have to really look at it and set them up on a rotating basis for budgeting.
Thank you, Carol. Next.
Will?
Thank you. Ditto. No, just
Next.
So, funding is always a critical issue. There is a prioritization for rotating upgrades, especially with ADA compliance as an issue with some of the older parks. But there's always a budget element that takes that into account. I think, as I mentioned, one of the key areas of the culture within Parks and Community Service is listen, then act. And I think that was never more evident when there were a number of resident participations regarding things like Crow Canyon Gardens and trails and open space, and always continually looking for feedback. What are the residents looking for? And I think the recent expansion of the field in Rancho is one of the examples of responding to that. We also need to look to the master plan, because there are 4 key decision point elements within the master plan that filter decisions throughout that process. And then also, I do think that the Cultural Growth Fund is an important part. We just increased the proportion that comes from the ticket pricing. It affords not just the ability to help defray costs for performances, but also provides a budget for technology upgrades in the theaters. And that's important. And then lastly, I certainly do agree that there is opportunity for private and public funding. We've seen examples of that in the past. For example, the sponsorship of the California Symphony concert in Central Park at one time, and some of the other areas that not just from a one-time event standpoint, but from an ongoing project standpoint. So examples would be the utility box program, where there was sponsorship from other outside sources. So I think budgeting is always an issue, but there are priorities. There are components that are set up to guide and give us decision points as we go through that prioritization. And then the key element there is listen, then act. See what's happening in the city, understand the needs of the residents, and then move forward with those concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Ravni?
Okay, so I'm going to repeat what some of the others said because they are fantastic answers, but
Well, you can't do it any shorter than ditto, so go ahead.
So I think we have to constantly evaluate and reevaluate the current situation, going over parks, going over the pool. An example would be the pool renovation at Cal High. It was a fantastic renovation. Everybody is chomping at the bit to get back into the pool, to have the kids in it. And it was something that was needed. And, you know, the amount of pool time that we have available to different programs and the programs that want to use it is always contentious, but having that availability to toddlers, to young adults and older citizens is amazing. So reevaluating and evaluating. And then again, the public-private partnership that we've talked about. In Oconee County, when I was a Parks and Rec commissioner as well, I actually set up a Parks and Rec commission, or a Parks and Public-Private Foundation. So I'm familiar with the legal and financial ramifications of how to do it, what's appropriate, what's not. I think there's a lot of opportunities, and I think it's just a matter of where priorities lay and getting that funding in. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Patrick?
Thank you. First, you know, I work in advertising with my clients, and the first thing is it's when you go in there, it's not what you think is best for the client. It's what you've talked to the client, you find out their needs. So finding out the community, what they need, and then kind of going from there. So I definitely think people have said it before, but utilizing public-private partnerships, public-private funding. I've done that in my career in the private sector and radio. I've worked with Contra Costa DA's office, the Alameda County DA's office, various nonprofits in various cities. So I think that's one thing. I also think that, you know, and I might be wrong on this, but I believe what public safety is 1, public works is 2, and I think the parks are 3 for budget items. So, I mean, our parks are award winning. People move here for the parks to San Ramon. So we do have to maintain them. We do have to improve them. We do have to appeal, as I mentioned earlier, to our diverse and aging population, more, you know, water fountains, benches, shading, all-weather track. So stuff like that, and that costs money. So how else would we do it? Well, you know, if we look at it, if the numbers show, we may have to raise fees on our parks. So that would be something to raise fees. Will mentioned the Cultural Growth Fund, but just raising fees in general at the parks is one avenue, if that's how everything looks after we find out the needs and the budgeting. So those are the main areas that I see. And again, I feel that my experience in the private sector, working with private public partnerships, would be able to contribute greatly. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Patrick. Next.
Martha?
You're muted.
Thank you, Councilmember Armstrong. This is a very timely question, because we are coming out of COVID, and knowing what we've gone through with the city and our local businesses gone through the revenue side, it is a very, very timely question. And I think it's very important that as a city citizens, as well as city leadership, need to address that in a proper way. We do have 57 parks, 4 community center, 2 aquatic center, 2 performing arts, 2 gymnasium. That's a lot for a city like San Ramon. But just to maintain the quality of the city life that we have been providing, it is very important that we maintain that. So first of all, jumping into that, my guiding principle will be our master plan, 10 years master plan. It doesn't give it all the solution, but it kind of gives you set you in the proper way direction, because it has done a lot of surveys, talk to people, learn to people, what is their priorities, what do they want. So it gives us a clear direction on the prioritizations of where should we focus our money spending on that. Second things is definitely something called capital investment plan. So basically that's also guiding principle. I'm pretty sure city accountants and city architects, they pretty much understands these principles and how to invest the capital investments into that, and what kind of infrastructure project that needs to be supported. Public-private partnership, that some of the candidates already mentioned. This will be a great time to actually think it through more and do that. We are already doing it. We should probably do that. And the last one, also there's something like cultural growth funds. We, as an Arts Advisory Committee member, we reviewed that, we increased that. We had to increase that, looking at that. This kind of individual funds can help individual infrastructure projects or individual facilities. So there are different ways to that. I don't think I have one single solution for that, but definitely there are a lot of ways we can be slightly innovative. We can be slightly do the tools that we have in our hand. But I think we as a city, great city, we are very proud of. We'll definitely be coming out this with whatever the financial situation we are or we have all gone through. Thank you.
Thank you, Partha. Next,
Sean?
John?
Yeah, thank you. So again, I'm going to stick to 3 points that would guide my decision process here. So number one, I'd refer back to that master plan. Assuming those stakeholder surveys are current, that's always our step one, right? Stakeholders. Two would be to look at those 4 guiding principles to kind of direct prioritization of the facility renovations and additions and make sure everything is aligned appropriately. And the third would be, the potential for an increase in local partnerships, because again, those are going to be mutually beneficial for the organizations, the city, and the community members. And I see that firsthand with what we do at San Ramon FC. So ultimately, aligning those guiding principles with stakeholder needs is kind of what's going to drive my decision process. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Steve?
Mark, Councilman Armstrong, thank you so much for the question. And I just want to share what I would do. The first thing is I got to make sure I'm really clear on the priorities. I know we have a master plan, but I want to make sure if there's any other priorities that maybe the city council has said, hey, this is super important. So we need to make sure I do the research and understand the priorities. And I'm with Will in a sense of, have we really listened to the community and do we understand what the needs of the community are? So that's the first step I did. Then the next step is when the budget's presented, staff comes with recommendations. How do we leverage our resources that come in and make recommendations to really seek to understand what their recommendations are to ensure that I understand it because they're the experts and make sure that we're addressing any massive safety issues that we'd have. The third priority, I'd say, okay, if we have a budget, how can we touch the most members of our community? How do we affect the most members of our community that stay ahead of our trends, right? That we're not missing a trend. You always hear about cricket pitches coming up at every Parks Commission. That's a major trend we need to go address. And then once we go through that and we say, hey, there's a shortage, there's 2 places I think we can go tap into. Dinesh has talked about, private resourcing, which I totally agree with. The other issue is user groups. We have a massive user group that we can tap into that can help us with prioritization. They also have things that they would need. So where can we get their help and maybe help fund some of their priorities that are pretty consistent with staff may come in as a priority. So to tap in to get their help to help our parks stay up to the standard they want to be at. And I went a little over, but that's how I do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Richard?
Thanks for that question, Councilmember Armstrong. It's a good question. It's a practical question. We do have the 4 points, of course, about from the master plan, which we need to look at. But then we also need to get community involvement. I mean, you look at the biggest impact, you may see a park that because of the large use, it's starting to get run down. And that shows that maybe this is a resource that we really need to direct funds towards. You also look at funding source. Not only do we have it maybe in the budget, but we also have a private backer that could also help us. We look at, the gap in what we want for our city and an example and also, end of life, that kind of thing. And you can look at Crow Canyon Gardens in which that was, in poor shape, but now we have a plan to go ahead and, looks like maybe build a building and make it so it's accessible to the citizens. But you not only look at the plan, but you get the input from the citizens and also even the city council and the parks and community services may have their own ideas of what they think is right, but ultimately it's going to be the city council that decides. Thank you.
Thank you. And last?
That was the last for this question.
Dinesh. Okay, I'm sorry, you guys snuck in on me. Our next question will come from Council Member Zafar. And again, try to keep it to a minute, but we know how it goes. It's not like we ever stay to a minute, so don't feel too bad about it. Go ahead, Sabina.
Good evening, everyone. It's so wonderful to see all of you, and thank you for applying, and really appreciate you continuing to want to serve San Ramon. We're just very lucky that you're so passionate about serving. My question is around involvement with a Parks and Recs program. So have you ever been involved with or volunteered for any of San Ramon's Parks and Recs program?
The first is Kumar.
So I think thank you, Zafar, for a great question. So honestly, I'm not involved specifically any program to coordinate, but the thing is, the park always I enjoy the park and the area. Most of the time is the park, walk and play, and even I am a founder of Ideal Kids. We had a lot of programs in the park. We utilized the kids to develop healthy habits. Part of the thing is we had a lot of programs. We utilized the parks. That is one of the part we utilized many ways. And another thing is we usually have a group of people. I'm a volunteer mentor for runners. We do meet in the park and coach the team to be a better, healthy life. I think that's all I can say, Mr. Sagar.
Thank you. Next.
Carol.
Thank you. Involved in with working at the parks. Yes, I've volunteered on the days that when we plan for cleaning and improving parks. So I've worked at Crow Canyon Gardens of pulling weeds, shoveling mulch. Also, I have worked at Forest Home Farms on planting things, going around and cleaning up and going all around with different areas, surveying what needs to be done as also there. And in the parks, I've really visited all of them in one over several years, and looking to see what can be done and maybe, trying to come back to staff and see where we can do it. But I think my main thing has been Crow Canyon, and I think there's some other parks that I have also worked on volunteers of, and it seems to me I'm usually shoveling mulch at most of these places, or pulling weeds. So maybe it's my background of being raised on a farm. But so I have been involved in maybe not actually working physically, but they're also when we've dedicated parks, been involved in that. And then the dog parks, I've been there. So I have been involved with a lot of the parks in different ways. So thank you.
Oh, Carol, you were also an usher at a lot of our Div Pack stuff.
Yes, that's involved in parks. I've ushered at Dove Pack and a little theater also.
All right, you two, we're going to keep you to a minute. Who's next?
Will Dorlick.
Will.
Great. Well, thank you and welcome to the Doherty Valley Performing Arts Center. So, yes, I think, just showing up is a large part of being involved. Caring enough to take time to meet with the residents, participate in events, go to the theater, the community center, the art receptions and exhibits. It takes a commitment and it's part of the role and job of a commissioner. In fact, I just recorded the public service announcement for the Doherty Valley Performing Arts Center, which some of you heard during the Art and Wind Festival. And there are several of you on the call tonight that have invited me to events during my term. And I've been very, very happy to come and support the events, the festivals and the celebrations. So I think I've been there to support and enrich the city of San Ramon. A couple other examples is as a member of the San Ramon Arts Foundation for over 19 years and president the last 7 years. I've been certainly involved in a lot of the programs, organizing festivals, and as a member of several nonprofits, spent enough time in booths at the Art and Wind Festival, selling food and participating there. And then another good recent example, as a parks commissioner and working with the teen council, I was instrumental in getting the Outstanding Teen Council Citizenship Award as a part of the San Ramon Chamber Community Awards. We've done that for 2 years now. where the outstanding teen is recognized in front of the business community and the community of San Ramon at large. And also putting some skin in the game. My company was the corporate sponsor that provided the award for the Teen Council Outstanding Citizenship Award. So I think part of being a commissioner and being involved in the city is being involved in those events, because that's where you hear what's happening. That's where you see the programs come to fruition. And it's very important that you're out and about in the city, because that is part of the job and part of your commitment as a commissioner. So I look forward to continuing that aspect of the role tremendously. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Will, next.
Ravni?
So thank you for the question. In the time that we've been back in the pandemic, there hasn't been a lot available, but we have participated in the parks, just picking up trash. It's very important to me to teach my children that when you go to a park, you leave it cleaner than you came to it. So that's something that we do on a regular basis. Many, many years ago, when I was, I think in college, I participated with the Wind Festival. That would have been in the early 90s, I believe. So I'm more of a boots on the ground type person when it comes to working with programs. I believe that showing up, doing the work is just as important as, you know, somebody who comes in towards the end and looks around. That's where our volunteer hours come in. That's where being a commissioner, that's where being a member of this community is important. Showing up, doing the work. I have a lot of experience in other parks and work, but as a volunteer, I'm looking forward to working with Forest Home Parks or some of the other programs available.
Thank you, Ravni. Next.
Patrick?
Yes, thank you, Council Member Zafar, for the question. And I've been visited all of our parks here. I've also, with KKIQ, we used to be on site for the Art and Wind, so pre-COVID. So I've been out there for that. I've also visited, obviously, as a citizen of San Ramon. And I'm signed up to work 2 concerts here for the summer concert series coming up here in July, and sell food and beverages with the San Ramon Art Foundation. So I'm excited about that. And I also, this isn't at a park, but I hosted last year, right before COVID, the foreign film series with Susie Chow there in the theater for the residents of San Ramon. And thank you so much for the question.
Thank you, Patrick. Next.
Partha?
Partha? You're muted. There you go.
Councilmember Zafar, this is a very good question. This tells us how much committed we are to the city programs. It's not only just being in the committees and using the facilities, but also we need to get into the ground to help us. Having said that, yes, I did participate and partnered with city to do some of the, help them with doing some of the events like Art and Wind Festival. Unfortunately, we didn't have that this year, but last year and year before, I was actively participating with the thing, with organizing some of the things. Also, having our own food stall and participating in the cultural program. So that's a big event, and I was able to very proud for myself that I was able to give a little bit of my effort into there to probably made a little bit difference in the big thing that they organized it. So I was very proud of that. Other my event that I was actively took part is cultural in the community there as well, helping there, as well as helping our Agomoni kids to participate there. So kind of guiding people, helping the crowd, as well as do that. That is another program on that. I did a couple of times. I also did during this pandemic. I took my kids to the park cleaning operations on that. It was not an organized event, but we do sometimes go there because I feel it is the time spending with this with my kids to actually learn that this environment, this community is ours, and we need to do that. So this is something that also I and my kids really like doing that. I think also this is also helpful to use the facilities as well. When we use the facilities, we become part of the facilities on the Parks Commission as well. So overall, this is what I have been doing, and I will, so whatever the minimum difference that I can make to the parks and the city, I'm very proud of that. as a citizen.
Apology is final.
Go back, Councilmember Safar.
It'll cost somebody points.
Welcome back.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Welcome back.
Sounds like one of those GE things. Okay, let's start over from the beginning, and everybody, your opening statements will be go ahead. Who's next?
So we ended with Partha, so now Sean.
Sean?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So ultimately, as a kid, I was a summer camp leader with the city of San Ramon, so that set me on my career path. Looking forward, I'm excited to the leadership development program and gaining a deeper understanding of some of the volunteer opportunities. I keep hearing about a bunch, but not quite sure how to get involved yet. So that piece to the puzzle will be exciting. But ultimately, I mean, a few of us have said it, the commitment to the community leads to the community committing to you. So showing up and being there is a big part of the puzzle. I love when families invite me out to watch a kid play baseball or watch their kid ride the bike at the dirt path up at Memorial Park. Those things, and being there and showing face and smiling and learning the ins and outs of each of those programs is a huge piece. And I'm an active user myself. I love taking the dog on the trail or to one of the dog parks and participating in the sports myself. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Steve?
Councilmember Safar, do you mind repeating the question? I just want to make sure I'm capturing it the right way. Thank you.
Of course. Have you been ever involved with or volunteered for any of San Ramon's Parks and Recs programs?
Okay, yes. Okay, thank you so much. I've been involved with a lot of the programs. I mean, when I was younger, my children were involved in the Little Dribblers program, to some of the soccer programs they delivered, and then to Art and Win, which I talked about earlier. When I was a leader for Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts, we had booths within the Art and Win program. Then at San Ramon Soccer, we used that as a way to educate the community on the club. Been involved at Doherty Valley Station with performing arts, attending some of those theaters, and my kids were involved with that. So it was uncomfortable because I've never done arts before, so I helped them, which was kind of really a good learning experience for me. And then I can tell you, I've been on every field that the city has, from a standpoint as we do soccer tournaments. I know we might have water issues to where we have great parks to deliver that. And then I continue to be involved, frankly, as a user in the user groups, because I'm very involved in baseball still. And then also been over to Four Stones to do front education with my children. As we know, as your children also get my children, as I do field trips over there to learn about the history of San Ramon. So I know I'm at time, but there's other areas I've been involved in, but I just want to stay within time. So thank you for repeating it again. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve. Next.
Richard?
Yeah, thank you, Sabina, for that question. Good to see you. I've been involved in the Art and Win Festival volunteering over the years. I've also coached Little League and have used our parks. Of course, we have school parks that are part of our parks that are available in San Ramon. So I've done that. I've taken kids on regional park trails. I also had the opportunity to enter or have some of my artwork shown in the library for a number of weeks. So I care very much about art. I like the fact that the Rotary Club that I'm involved with helped fund the storyteller walk that we have in Central Park. So I would like to continue to especially be involved in art as an expression for our community about social issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I believe Dinesh, did he speak while I was off, or is he the last one?
He's the last one.
You're up, Dinesh.
I tried speaking, but I thought maybe it was I thought I was frozen for a minute. No, I'm just joking. So no, thank you, Councilmember Zafar. I've coached. One of the big things that City of San Ramon has is youth hoops, and I've coached for youth hoops through the City of San Ramon for 8 years. And 1 year, I remember when Adam Chow was doing it. He was organizing it. I had 3 teams and I was running back to back, you know, from one facility to another facility to another, but it was so much fun. And, you know, I had the opportunity to do that, and, you know, would love to do that again if I was ever given that opportunity. I've used the facilities, you know, where we rented facilities for birthday parties, coach other sports like soccer, baseball, softball. So we've used those facilities. And I think, like Ramon said, you know, one of the things is that I've always tried to, when our kids have used the facilities, we've tried to make sure the facilities were always left better than we received it. So whether it's the baseball fields or softball fields, you know, made sure we dragged the field to keep it, you know, keep the upkeep on it, and made sure it was kept up to par. My kids have been involved with many of the programs as well. And my daughter was a camp counselor, and currently I'm serving as as a member of the Library Advisory Committee. I'll stop there, but thank you.
Thank you, Dinesh. That concludes the questions for Council Member Zafar. I will now go to Vice Mayor Perkins, and he has a question for all of you.
I'm sure all of you have taken a moment to read the San Ramon Parks, Trails, Open Space, and Recreation Master Plan. There are 4 themes identified: interconnected, conservation and connection to nature, inclusive, balance of quality and quantity. If you had to pick just one to focus on, which one would you pick and why?
Okay, City Clerk has the starting line. You don't get to raise your hand, Will. You got to wait your turn. Where are you at? There you are, down at the bottom now. Who's first?
Richard?
Richard, you lead us off.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Vice Mayor Perkins, and thank you for your service for many years, not only militarily, but in the city of San Ramon. It's kind of hard to pick, but I think what I would focus on would be the interconnection that we have with our trails and our parks. We really want to, you know, continue to have a good level of service in our community. And that is, I understand we want to have parks that are, will serve, maybe have approximately, I think our goal is 6.5 acres per 1,000 people. But in order to achieve that, you also need to have the interconnection with for instance, the Iron Horse Trail and some of the other parks that lead off, or some of the other trails that lead off from it. So I again would focus on that, and also making sure that we have plenty of park of shade and benches so that it can be a comfortable citizen or experience for our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next. Christina?
Dinesh? Sorry.
Got the mute. I'm not the only one.
Thank you, Councilmember Perkins. I would say for me, it would be inclusivity. And that would be probably my, it's hard, again, to pick the 4 because they all are very important. But I think, you know, with our diverse population, and especially the multi-generational population that we have here in San Ramon, it's paramount that we really focus on hitting all different aspects and being able to make sure people, all the folks are included in what we try to do here. And the whole point of building a community is making sure people are included. And so for me, inclusivity would be the #1 probably priority of those 4.
Thank you.
Next.
Kumar?
Yeah, thank you for a great question, Vice Mayor. It is, I love to pick all of them, but you asked me specifically. I can go with the interconnected, the trial. So that is my favorite run every Saturday. INOS trial, at least every Saturday, at least like to run with minimum 10 miles with a group of people. So I'm a long time mentor and a supporter for the runners, and it is a great area, really utilized. Even I did notice couple of opportunity to when the runner they shared, yeah, that is important for seniors and other people take rest. But couple of places I did notice the water fountain, it would be close to the California High School, the backside. And that is another area. So we couldn't find the water fountain. That is another area. I would think that is important for us to rethink. But again, the interconnection is a critical resource, and I know the overpass is important because a lot of time people wait to that area. Not only that, if some runner I did notice, they don't patient wait. It is a accident prevention area. It's very important to think about the priority. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Carol,
You're muted.
But it was a great speech.
Yeah, we like hearing from you. There we go.
No, I don't think it's on there.
Yep, we can hear you now.
Oh, well, I show that I'm muted. Can you hear me though?
Yeah, very
Yes.
well.
Okay, it shows I'm muted. I'm sorry. Would you repeat the question again, Scott? I want to check.
Yes, well, I'm sure you're familiar with the Parks Community. Parks, Trails, Open Space, and Recreation Master Plan. And there's 4 main themes: interconnected, conservation and connection to nature, inclusive, balance of quality and quantity. I'd like you to choose one as your highest priority and tell us why and what you would do to promote it.
And you just remuted.
Oh no, you're muted.
There you
Now
go.
you're- now you're good.
I didn't touch it. I don't know what it's doing, but anyway, I would think I would place emphasis on conservation. There is a lot that we need to do, but I think that connects with conservation is continuing with our trails and our parks, and especially conservation of keeping our parks nature to make our parks more nature so that you're closer to them in your outdoor life. And we have the Crow Canyon Gardens where we want to enhance that in the to make it as full as nature as it is, with the beautification of the trees that we have, the gardens that we have there, the creek running through there that you can have access to. But conservation can be along all of the trails, and to that has to be in conservation, because you've got to remember to take care of what we have and make sure that we conserve the areas that we have in our city, to conserve the green areas and everything, and make sure that the parks stay green and are connected to nature and to be conservation, because we have to reserve our resources. So those are just my thoughts right off the top of my head, that I would think that that would be, and that's part of what we're looking through in our parks also, to keep them nature, because we have one that's several that is, the emphasis is on nature and reserving our green and our nature. So thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Who's next?
Will,
Excellent, thank you. I would choose interconnection for the following reasons. Number one, originally when the bicycle master plan was released, it was interconnection between the east and the west of the city. It was always a difficult because of the hills and because of the busy, through traffic. But we're also talking about not just a physical, but a spirit interconnection between the 8.2 and the 8.3, the east and the west, and the changing demographics within the community. I think that the interconnection is very important, because when we speak of diversity, we emphasize the differences, which are important, but the interconnection or inclusivity is important because it emphasizes the commonality among us. And that's where the art programs come into play in a very, very large way, because art is the common denominator that brings people together. I mean, art is that little bit of the divine that is within you that can bring people to have a common vision and a common view. So I think it's critical, the interconnection of the community, and that would be the one of the 4 that I would pick as a key that the other 3 would fall under. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Ravni,
All right, so of the 4, the one area that I really, really would focus on is the balance of quantity versus quality. I feel like that allows us flexibility to incorporate the aspects of the other three points. The other three seem to me rather sharper in focus. Balancing quality versus quantity, if we continue to evaluate and reevaluate our programs, allows us to take into account the demographics of our city, and as they change, it allows us to be inclusive of new ideas, new programs. It allows us to work on, if we need to, conservation. We can look at where do we need to maintain our parks, what's our focus right now. It allows us that flexibility to reach the other goals. Even in terms of interconnectedness, we're able to reach out to people and see that connection if we focus on the programs. If we look at what programs are we offering, how do we change those? So again, balancing the quality and quantity, and it just allows us flexibility to incorporate more of what San Ramon would like.
Thank you, Rodney. Who's next?
Patrick?
Thank you for the question, Vice Mayor. To answer your question, they're all very important. I would find out what the community needs first, and that's the one I would go for. You can make a strong argument for each one. If I had to choose one, so I'm answering your question. I mean, inclusivity is super important. The aging need, meeting the aging needs of our diverse population. However, I'd probably have to go with interconnected. I believe enhancing the Iron Horse Trail, specifically a big thing would be the shade that we need there, and more seating. And I think that is also difficult because it's challenging, I should say, because you're working with other partners on that. It's not just something that we can do. So I think in that we'd have to utilize public-private partnerships, and that's something I've excelled at in the private sector. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next.
Partha?
Thank you, Councilmember Perkins, for these very, very important questions. Yes, so our whole 10 years master plan is based on 4 guiding principles: interconnectivity, conservation, inclusiveness, and balance, and quality and quantity. All are extremely important. I don't think we can actually leave one and go with other, because to maintain the quality of our city, these 4 are very important. But since I have to pick one, I will go with inclusivity. And I will just call it as a diversity in demography. And I'll give you some data on that, because every time I read through the master plan, some of the data stuck in my head. Like, we are a diverse and aging population. And then if we look at the number, 2019, we were 84,000. And 2029 will be 92,000. And 2039 will be 96,000. Similarly, we are an aging populations. We are between 65 or 79. We had a percentage of 5.8 in the age of 2000. And by the time 2017, we became 12%, sorry, on that. Similarly, cultural, we have an aging population. So that's where it is. Equally important is our cultural diversity. The Asian population, which was around 14% in 2000, we became 42% into 2017. So we have to appreciate, we have to understand, and this master plan actually talks in details on that, put a lot of emphasis on this diversity, changes in the diversity on that. So that's why rightly they call it a growing, diverse, and aging population. So I think this is one area, if I have to pick, although I don't want to, but if I have to pick, I will pick the inclusivity and the diversifications. Thank you.
And what district you see it? No. Who's next?
Sean?
Yeah, thanks for that question. So for me, I would focus on the balance of quality and quantity. I understood it the same way as, I forget who said it, was it Ramon? That kind of everything fell under its arch. So I'm going to get back to my wheelhouse here with 3 points. So the 3 points out of that section were the planning for the future, which has been a topic we've touched on in every other question. The adequate financial and operational methods to maintain and renew those facilities and equipment, along with providing the quality program and the customer service piece. And finally, the big one from that section was providing a positive recreation experience. So that's a key point, and that's our goal all the way through, right? So for me, balance of quality and quantity. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe it's Steve, our last one.
Yes.
Steve?
Okay, thank you, Mayor Hudson. Thank you, Councilman Vice Mayor Perkins, for the question. And I'm with Martine. They're all very important attributes, but the one I would focus on is inclusive for different reasons that I've already talked about. I think the line that really resonated to me is that, you know, we wanted programs that are welcome to all existing and future residents. And I think future residents are really important to think about. As we take a look at inclusivity, one thing that really resonated to me is how do we communicate better to our residents in this community? We offer a lot of great services in the Parks and Recreation area. And I think the one issue we could do better is leveraging technology, because everyone's got technology to communicate, and make sure that we also talk about the aging population, understanding how they communicate and making sure that we're reaching the right way. We always need to say send them an app. Sometimes we need to mail people stuff to communicate better, right? And then with my last 5 seconds, I would say, I like the part about the aging population. I think we need to spend more time on how are we meeting their needs, understanding are we really meeting their needs, and get into that a little bit more, because I think there's big opportunity there. So that's my answer to that one. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. And our last questions for all of our candidates will come from Sridhar Varos, who was a former Parks and Community Service Director. Sridhar, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor Hudson. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you all again. Thank you very much for applying. It shows your commitment and passion for our community services. My question for you is, if appointed, how would you see your role as commissioner when recommending policy and working with the council?
The first person is Steve.
Last out, first up.
I know, that's exactly.
Hit him twice, man. Burn him.
No, I'll answer it. Hey, Council, thank you very much, Councilmember Rose. Can you restate the last part of the question again for me? I really appreciate it.
I can see that one coming.
I know. Yeah, Mayor Hudson, I knew would give me a hard time, but I was trying to write down the question, make sure I wanted to listen to understand. So I want that one more time if I can. Thanks.
I'll repeat the question.
Yeah.
If appointed, how would you see your role as commissioner when recommending policy and working with the council?
Yeah, okay, thank you for the question, and for repeating it again for me too. I appreciate it. I think as I sit and recommend policy and working with the council, I think the first thing is, as any person, I need to learn a lot. I'll be the first one to admit that about, you know, I understand the priorities, but to make sure I really understand the priorities. So as we recommend policies, a policy comes up, I've always believed that you would go to members on the council, and you'd be a great example from the standpoint of worked in the Parks Commission. Hey, I need some advice. I need to get advice. Am I aligned? Do I seek to understand and make sure I'm understanding the needs of the community as we look at a policy and how it's going to affect everybody? So you find, I believe, center of experts, people who've gone through that hill to get some advice. And then as we go through policy, do the research, make sure you get staff recommendation, make sure you get council input. So I'm really representing the city, and then also make sure we obviously have citizen input, which is massively important, that I'm representing the city, and those stakeholders are massively important as that policy would affect them. So that's how I would go about that. And then make sure I leverage the data that I've obtained to make sure I use a database for recommendation. So that's what I would do. Thank you so much. And thanks for going back to back. It was awesome.
Thank you. Who's next?
Richard.
Thanks, Sridhar, for that question. It's good to see you again. I think my role, I can reflect on just what I've done in my own, where I live in San Ramon at Greystone Ranch. I've been on the board of directors for a number of years, been vice president on the board, and some of the issues, although not the same scale as would be in the Parks and Community Services, we have the same issues sometimes with trimming trees, although our budget isn't $1 million like it is for the city itself. But I would like to work with the citizens, and of course work with Kathy Hyman, who is just fantastic and knows so much about what's going on, and is a a strong presence for the Parks and Community Services. So I would work with her. I would get citizen input and find out, use common sense. Sometimes you just got to kind of read everything and then use your common sense. So I think that's the philosophy I would have, dealing with the city officials and also the citizens, and throw in a little common sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Dinesh.
All right. Hey, thanks, Councilmember Veros. The mute button's been a little bit of a challenge today. Thank you for that's a great question. And I think when information, my role I would see is, I would look at all the information that's presented to me, work with the staff very closely, listen to what they have to say as well, get input from the community. And the most important thing is to keep an open mind. I think that's really, when you go into these things, you need to keep an open mind and really be a good listener, and just absorb as much information as possible. Look at the data, and and then go to the right people if you need some other assistance and help. But I think also, when you get public comment, make sure that we're really closely listening to that. Absorbing that information, making sure that we're taking all of that and really sincerely paying attention and trying to understand what the comments are coming back to us, and what those are. And then I would also look and refer to the general master plan and the parks master plan as guiding principles as well, to help, with, when I'm looking, when I'm trying to make a decision as well. So those would be some of the things I would do to kind of go down that path.
Thank you. Next.
Kumar.
Yes, Christina, thank you. So again, thank you, Sridhar. It's a great question. Definitely see any policy changes, any changes, not people views, but we have the responsibility to explain what is the change, how it is affect, and so importantly, you need to know your stakeholder. So you need to discuss with them, understand how this is going to affect, how this is going to add a value. Is it a compliance? Is a standard? This kind of thing is you have to have a small group of people or big audience, and you have to really discuss with them and understand what is their feedback. Sometimes you have to take a tough choice to really recommend, but the thing is always it is you listen to people, at least understand their concern and values, and before making any recommendation, that way you can buy in with the people. So that's the way, if I get appointed, I will make a right decision with work with the people and across all the stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you, Kumar. Who's next?
Carol.
Still muted.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you. The role of doing policy, and I assume it would relate to the Parks and Community Services. So I would definitely work with the staff, especially Kathy, who is very well versed in every area. But also, when I found out what the policy was going to be, I would probably then contact my council person in my area that would probably maybe have some additional information that would relate to it, or I would also contact other staff members of particularly what was going on. Then I would make my own search. I would, visit and hear the public's input from it. And then, to speak with my other other commissioner members, so that I would not be making the decision by myself, but I would be making it as a commission as a whole. And you would just have to really do a lot of search, spend a lot of time, but making policy, you have to listen to staff, the council, other commissioners, and other staff or other committees pertaining to what would be. But we have to listen definitely to the committee, the city members as a whole. So it's just not one decision, but I would definitely take all those avenues into consideration before making a policy.
Thank you. Next.
Will.
Thank you. Just as in business, there's three things you operate on: common sense, transparency, and respect. If you keep those in alignment, you have a great chance of being successful. But the role of the commission is, and of the commissioners that sit on the commission, and we need to remember this, is that it's governance, policy, and strategy and budget. We are not an execution or implementation. We focus on governance and policy, just like a board of directors. We have one staff member that reports to us, and that's Director Hyman. We don't direct staff. Director Hyman directs staff on our recommendations, just as the city manager reports to the city council. And while, since it's parks and community services, and we look at parks and sports fields, sometimes we need to be in the weeds, but in most cases, we do want to focus on strategy, policy, governance, and make sure that we have the confidence in staff to execute and implement those strategies, policies, and budget areas that we bring to the table and recommend to the city council. So in many areas, we provide recommendations to the city council and consult when there's a joint meeting between the city council and, for example, Parks and Community Services. But we also need to be, aware of the legal issues as far as speaking outside of a commission or a council meeting, and respect those as well. So we act as a governing body for policy, strategy, budget, and present those to the city council for their final recommendation and approval. Thank you.
Ravni?
So my biggest gift is that I talk to people. I engage in conversations. I ask questions. More than anything, I ask questions. Who are you? What do you like to do? What makes you tick? What do you enjoy? And I listen. After I ask those questions, it is the most important thing to listen. I need to listen to who I'm talking to, like what are they saying? What is important to them? Understanding the policy set forth, understanding the needs of the general citizenry of San Ramon, getting out, asking those questions, and understanding how this policy set by the city and by our Parks and Rec department, how that policy affects individuals. That is extremely important. Getting that information, sharing it with the council, analyzing it with my legal brain, how it affects policy, what can we do going forward? Those to me are the most important things. That's how I would approach my role as a commissioner, asking questions, understanding what we need to do to go forward, sharing it with the council as a team player, and understanding that we are an advisory board. We are here to make recommendations and to work with council to help them make the best of San Ramon as possible. It is not a one-man or one-woman show. It is a team effort between council, board, and the community.
Thank you, Ravneet. Who's next?
Patrick?
Thank you, council member, for the question. There's an old saying that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So work with your teammates, work with your fellow, first get input from the community, find out the needs, do research on it, and then, work with your fellow teammates, your fellow park commissioners. If you have questions for the council members, do your research, ask the experts, get the information you can. When you can, use analytics, data, and metrics, if possible. Keep the four guiding principles of the master plan: interconnected, conservation, connection to nature, inclusive, balance, quality, and quantity. And then again, we're an advisory board. We're making recommendations. So I've been a team player on the Arts Advisory Committee. I've been a team player as a board member of the Arts Foundation. And I'm a hard worker. I like to roll up my sleeve and learn, and then make informed decisions after getting all the information from the community and colleagues. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Patrick. Who's next?
Partha?
There you go.
Thank you, Councilmember Veros. It's another one excellent question. I think being part of, first of all, just a little thing that being part of the two advisory committees for the last 4 years, first with library and then art advisory committee. This is one of the things that we as a team do. I mean, Patrick just talked about team game, team player, team things. So that's exactly what we do. We consult, we discuss, and then we push it to the commission. If I'm given an opportunity to sit into the commission, my process will be pretty much the same, because I come from community. I have worked from within the community as well as inside with the parks departments with the Tulare advisory. So I kind of feel a little bit proud of having experience on both sides. So I have direct lot of communications with the community. So my first, I will have a 3 steps things. One is I consult with the community, try to learn what they're asking, what they need. Then we consult with fellow commissioners who will definitely have a lot of experience, can guide me, as well as Kathy and other staff members, and then ask them and try to understand what is exactly to be done. And last but final, with my personal experience with managing a global team, I think I also sometimes need to depend on my own judgments on the decision-making process. So these are the 3 principles that I'll be following before pushing any or recommending any policy continuation or changes to the council. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Sean.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So my role and how I see myself, again, I'm gonna go back to my 3 points here. So number 1, I have to understand it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. 4 years in this position. Number 2, and we've said it all, everyone said it here, is it's not just to hear what people are saying, but to listen, to learn, and then apply what we've learned. This is a new position to most of the candidates here. So we all need to communicate and understand first before we move forward. And finally, I've got to go in with a growth mindset, empathy, and an unbiased vision that relies on not only data, but the stakeholder input to direct my decision making. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I believe that's everyone. All the questions have been answered. At this time, we're going to select each one of you randomly again. We don't even know when they're coming up. Take a minute or so, tell us a little bit more about yourself, or we also leave it available to you if you want to ask questions of any or all of us. So, who is first in line this time, Christina?
Carol.
I was going to make a quick suggestion. Oh, before we started, do we want to give everybody a couple of minutes of break? Just
I would say we definitely, I would say, Will, you don't, but when Sabina asks if you want to take a break, there's usually a reason behind it. So do you want to take a break, council members? Sabina? All right, we'll keep going.
I was saying more for the candidates because they've,
okay.
It'll be good to just go away, come back.
Into it than I thought. Go ahead, Christina, start us off.
Carol's the first.
Okay, Carol.
Thank you. San Ramon is a dynamic and a rapidly growing community, as we know. Then the commission will face the challenge of meeting the needs of the community while protecting our environment. But at the same time, we must meet the need of the growing needs of a diverse population. Programs must be developed and continued to satisfy multiple sports, children's development activities, teens and senior population. We need to do these while maintaining our parks and open space integrity by allowing for our future growth. With constrained financial resources and demographic changes, it has become a real challenge as to how we will move forward. With my past experience and leadership knowledge, I will be a valuable contributing commissioner for embracing the challenges that lie ahead. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Carol. Who's next?
Will.
Thank you so much. The success moving forward for Parks and Community Services is the utilization, as we mentioned, of a recently issued and updated master plan. And that's the filter through which decisions are made and executed. We've talked about those 4 points. These are the guiding principles. There are also 4 key issues, one of which I don't think has been brought up yet, that I will bring up as my first key issue in closing. And that is reconciling parks and open space with the housing element as we move forward. This is a key and crucial issue, that we look at these 2 elements as complementary to each other and not in opposition to each other. That the parks and open space and the housing element need to be brought together in a complementary way. Number two is the private and public funding options, because as we increase our population, as we have more parks and more services that we are looking at creating, we need to look at additional funding choices. And then changing focus and programs to match the changing demographics. That's been mentioned several times, but it's very important because as I mentioned before, we look at diversity, but it's more important to emphasize and look at inclusion and how we bring the community together. And then maintaining the culture of excellence and inclusion within the Parks and Community Services organization itself. I think it's interesting that my first involvement with Parks and Community Service was actually with Director Hyman when she was first coming on board. And I was bringing musical acts and music to the Black and White Party. For those of you, you can Google that if you want. The Art and Wind Festival, some of the mayoral conferences. So I was involved in bringing talent and music prior to being on the Arts Advisory Committee initially and the Arts Foundation. You know, in addition, we need an awareness of and flexibility in decisions as the environment changes and the needs of our city and our residents evolve. The next 3 to 5 years are a critical and exciting time in the growth and definition of San Ramon. It is important to have the involvement of residents that are aware of and in concert with the recent successes, as well as the key interests and possibilities yet to come. I look forward to your support to continue and be a part of our future success. Thank you.
Maybe we should have taken that break. Okay, who's next?
Ravneet.
All right, so I may take a little longer than usual. I'm gonna reserve all my past time for now. So, Councilmember Veros, you asked about how we operate as a commissioner. As a past assistant city attorney, communication skills and understanding how policy works is one of my fortes. That's past experience that can be put to work here. Mayor Hudson and Vice Mayor Perkins, y'all asked about programs and how we would prioritize what to focus on as council, as commission members. As an end user, I've got 4 kids. My parents live here. I'm involved in their activities as seniors. As an individual, I look at all the programs. It gives me experience in what we're actually doing for our community. Going back to Vice Mayor Perkins' question, it allows me to see how we need to focus, how we need to be flexible to move forward, and where the priorities of the community lie, given that I'm in contact with such diverse groups on a personal and deep level. Councilmember Zafar, you asked about experience and what we're doing with San Ramon right now. I have coached soccer, I've coached basketball, I've coached baseball this past season. I was a T-ball coach, stepped out of my zone of comfort. You know, I've volunteered on some programs. I'm looking forward to volunteering more now that the pandemic is over, but being a part of the community and making the community better is what I've always lived for. It's what I believe in. It's what I want my children to believe in. Service to our community is so valuable and it needs to be addressed throughout our school-age children. Last,
oh, go ahead.
Are we done?
No, you can't take a breath when I'm around. Go ahead.
I'm trying, but thank you so much. Again, I love San Ramon, and anything I can do to help make it better would be wonderful. Thank you all again for listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ravneet. Next.
Patrick.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, fellow council members, and fellow candidates, and Christina. As I mentioned, since I've first been on the foundation, I helped come up with the first virtual film club for San Ramon, which I'm the co-host. I'm proud to report, as I said earlier, we've completed 3 of those. I also was a guest speaker for the foreign film series. On the Arts Advisory Committee, I've made many recommendations and evaluations. Some of the projects included the Library Public Art Project, Public Utility Box Project, Election Sign Reform Project, or I know we don't have a name for that one, the World Poetry Day submissions. I've also conducted interviews with 2 of the members of the Park and Community Service for our current Poet Laureate. I feel my ability to work as a problem solver in radio all these years can help me contribute solutions to tackle issues that our city is facing, such as more shade and seating on the Iron Horse Trail. Also, we need more multicultural and cultural diverse programs. including for seniors in the Senior Community Center to meet the needs of our aging and diverse population. Bringing community and inclusivity. I've done that my whole career in radio, working with cities, targeting campaigns to drive traffic and get people out to these events. San Ramon residents love our parks, trails, and open spaces. We need to continue to maintain and improve them and accommodate our growing and changing demographics, all while being inclusive and fiscally responsible. I've utilized public and private partnerships my whole career, and there's so much more to tell you, but unfortunately I'm out of time. So I want to thank you for your time and your consideration. I respectfully ask for your vote for the Parks and Community Service Commission. Let's do this. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Who's next?
Partha?
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, all the commissioners, my councilors, excellent candidates, and Krishna. I would like to reiterate my sincere interest to serve our beloved city at the Parks and Community Service Commission. For the last 4 years, I have been closely worked with our Parks Department staff, official, and commission members to organize events, use many of the city facilities in the process, build a very cordial and professional and working relationship with them. I have worked from outside as a big to organize big events, as well as worked with from inside, being the committee members of both library committee as well as art advisory committee, where we have reviewed applications to use parks facilities, approved city financial grant offering, and evaluated display and visual arts for the Parks Commission and the city in general. I've been a very active and representative member of our growing diverse community, and hope to represent them at the Parks and Community Service Commission with the best of my ability. I feel two of the most important traits for any community leader is listen and learn and being a team player. If given the opportunity, I'll be working very closely with the park staff and the other valued PCS Commission members, city councils to maintain the best what we have and give my best effort to improve as needed. As I always prefer to be looked at as a person who is always there to help and give everything I have in whatever way I can and whenever needed. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Partha. Who's next?
Sean?
Yeah, so I think I might be the youngest candidate here, but I view that as an opportunity to fully grow and develop with the current leadership and become a leader with a well-rounded vision myself. Although I have experience in the public sector as a teacher, board member with Cape-Bird, the private sector as director of high school hockey, a coach, an official with San Jose Sharks Community Development, San Ramon FC, among others, I have a drive to grow and continue to take on leadership positions. There's lots of knowledge in our community. Whether you agree or not, there's always something to be learned and something to be gained. If you have a growth mindset, empathy, and patience to listen, there's always a lot to be gained if you have that, hold those things near. And finally, I'm respectful and mindful of people and of their time. And I think I showed that by staying within my minute on every question. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Who's next?
Steve?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Hudson, Vice Mayor Perkins, council members, and Christina. I really appreciate your time tonight to talk about the skill set that I bring to help our community have some of the best parks and services I think in the Tri-Valley. And you think about it, as you make a decision, you gotta say, hey, what does this person bring to the party? What can they do? One, I would tell you that financial acumen, strategic thinking, how do I collaborate with multi individuals and make sure that I get the right input, listen, and I always call it active listening, because sometimes we just listen and respond versus listening to seek to understand what the needs are and then go execute and make sure you're perfect alignment. I do believe that as you look at individuals and you judge their certain talents, you also got to say, what have they done in the past? What they're going to do in the future. I've had great success within, take a look at San Ramon Soccer Club, to my work with Procter & Gamble, where I manage a $280 million budget and a team of 8 people across the United States, where we ought to drive collaboration. And I want to bring these skill sets to the Parks Commission. And frankly, I have a passion to serve the city. I love where I live. I think we have amazing citizens, and how do we continue to get ahead and delight our citizens and be the best community around? So thank you so much. And I'm asking for your support to be on the Parks Commission, and I thank you again for all your time tonight.
Thank you, Steve. Who's next?
Thank you.
Richard?
Thank you all for being here to listen to our answers tonight. You know, our city has basically doubled in size in the last 20 years. And during that entire time, the Parks and Community Services has been at the heart of who we are as citizens of this community. It's not just the beautiful mountains that we look at every day, but it's also how this Parks and Community Services bring our citizens together and to play and to interact and to build friendships. And they keep us healthy, happy, and unified. But it takes, to get to that point, to have all the wonderful parks, it takes long-term strategy. It takes looking at the master plan. It takes working together as members of the city council. And I think I've got good judgment as far as working when I worked at the litigation department and the insurance company. I had to make decisions on how to spend money. And I think it's similar in that we have to weigh pros and cons. I love our city. I believe I have the background, and I'm also got the passion and time to give myself to the community and to work with others and to ask the right questions and to continue making our city a great place to live, play, and work. So I humbly ask for your support for this commission opening. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Now, who gets the penultimate, Dinesh or Kumar?
Dinesh, then Kumar.
You're up, Dinesh.
Hey, thank you.
You're a winner.
All right, save the second, the best for last. Okay, anyways, hey, well, thanks again for the opportunity to be able to interview today. I mean, if you just look at the applicant pool, there's a lot of terrific candidates to choose from for this position. But I'd like to just say the most important contribution I can make as a commission member is the lens and perspective I would bring to the table as a physician, being a long-term resident of San Ramon, and my deep involvement in the community. I mean, I love the city. This is a great city. That's why I moved back. And my focus would be on the continued betterment of this community of San Ramon. I've been involved in many volunteer activities with coaching youth sports, the PTA in various roles, volunteered in the schools, and now serving on the library advisory committee. I have a proven track record of being a natural born leader. 20 to 24 years as a physician, I've been in leadership roles. I'm currently as a public employee as a chief medical officer of a large state agency, and I have transferable skills and leadership acumen to be able to contribute as a commission member for the city of San Ramon. If selected, I'd be honored to serve the community as your Parks and Community Services Commissioner, and thank you again.
Thank you. And Kumar, you have the final word.
Yeah,
Save the best for last, right?
Thank you, everybody. I think so. Who start the last doesn't matter. Who comes the first, that is the matter. So thank you again. One thing is I want to mention here is the master plan. It's a very impressive plan. I think thank you to the great previously put together a lot of effort. And using the 4 guiding principles and 10 opportunities, I give a full my support. One thing is I want to reiterate where I get this serving the community. I learned from my dad. Still, he does the community service back in India. And even after move back, even years, 20 years back, and continue to involve the multiple community, multiple leadership position, including schools and various organizations. I try to really give back to the community. As if I get opportunity to work on, I do have my engineering and master leadership degree, and I have an MBA, and I have a track record working in tech industry 20 years in US, and I always look at how do you do the things better, to make the change better. Doing the same thing is again, that's not going there. How you add a value, you come up with bring your own experience to make, always ask your question, is it going to add a value to the community? That's the way you need to work. If I get opportunity, I will put my full effort to serve the community. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you, Kumar. And thank you all of you for applying. And I would also like to add, thank you so much for making this a very difficult decision that we're going to have in front of us. And we are going to take 5 minutes, Sabina, before we come back and mull this over. But I really appreciate all of you taking your time tonight to come out and let us have an opportunity, many of you for a second time, to get to know you. It is unfortunate. There's only going to be 3 seats for 10 people that applied. But I wouldn't have any problem with any one of you being our Parks and Community Service commissioners over the next, what are we doing this for, 4 years, I believe. So if you would, I believe, Christina, you're going to be putting them out. And if you can, put us in for a 5-minute break and we'll be back to discuss it. Scott, you had a question first?
No, I just wanted to thank them all for applying and recognize that 70% of you will be a little disappointed. But please don't let this be the end of your efforts to participate in San Ramon. 30% of you are going to be selected tonight and 70% aren't, but there's plenty of other opportunities. Some of you are already serving on committees, and please continue and look for other ways to serve in the city because we do need your help.
Look at Sabina, that's what she did. Anyway, as I stated earlier, we're going to take a 5-minute break, make our decision, and you will be notified on what the decision is tomorrow. Is that correct, Christina?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll be back in 5.
I will go ahead and just remove you from the meeting, but put you in as an attendee so you can still watch the council deliberate.
Let me know when you're ready, Christina. Oh. Gosh, I was thinking for the last 5 minutes how many times I applied before I got on something. I think there's like 6 openings and I just threw my name in all of them. Ended up with Jim Livingstone. Planning Commission, I think 3 or 4 times.
And I really miss Jim. Jim was one of the great ones. He really was. He had a knack for sorting through all of the chaff to get to the wheat. More than anybody I think I ever met.
Yep.
Great businessman, served in the Coast Guard. His formal education was somewhat limited compared to many others, but he had a natural intelligence that probably exceeded virtually every council member I've ever worked with or commissioner.
I agree. And it wasn't just that. He, from when we became a city, we had, I don't know how many of you were here, but we had what was called a redevelopment agency and something called the Alcosta Mall, and Kodak was there. And I mean, it was a real mess trying to put this thing together or get something done, charrettes. So 127 people applied for a panel to listen to everything and anything during the charrette. And Jim was one of the 8 selected. And I mean, he would come straight from work, be wearing his overall. He had at Carroll Raleigh. I mean, it's like, and in the end, we now have what you see over there. But there was a point where everybody was wondering, are we ever going to do anything? And what they wanted to do, I just look at that now. If we had done it, Scott, Home Depot, Walmart, all in that same spot where you see that Dick Fay Park and the green behind there and the 110,000 square foot shopping center. That was all Kodak.
Yep.
Now it's
yep.
All a little railroad that went down there.
Yep.
Still remember Scott Haggerty coming out and we're saying, you can bring your train down here, but we're putting a tank there. Then I had to serve with him. Oh my goodness, he would never forget that. Now what happens? I'm on a train committee and he calls in from Tennessee. Anyway, we're ready. We coming back? We're official, we're live, we're whatever we are. Okay, anybody want to start off? I was dead serious. I thought it was a good group. I really want to thank you, first of all, Scott, for asking that we do interview again. Reaffirmed a lot of things I thought and was very useful, and I think it will serve them very well. Go ahead, Scott.
I just, re-interviewing and interviewing Carol Lopez-Lucy and Will Dorlich just remind me of what solid commissioners they have been. 4 years goes by pretty quick or very slow, depending on where you're sitting. But those 2, and if we look at the rest of the commission, we've got Heidi 1 and Heidi 2. Mm-hmm. We've got Julia and Scott Roberts, none of which have been on for more than 5 years.
Yep.
And there is value in having some continuity that goes back, so that when you discuss something that's already been discussed a decade ago, they can say, you know what, we tried that and this is what we had, and maybe we don't want to go down that path, or maybe we do, we just didn't try hard enough. But having some continuity does add value, and I see no reason not to reappoint those 2. Now, the other 8 applicants, I thought they really did really good. They hit on nearly every question and nearly every answer. And there's not, I don't think there's a bad choice in the bunch. The 2 that kind of stuck out for me, Rob Neat and Patrick. were two that kind of stuck out for me that I thought they were, a quarter step ahead, if you will, but just a tiny fraction. That was my opinion. Thanks.
Are you going to pick one now, or do you want to wait to hear from everybody else?
I'm going to wait.
Okay.
But
Okay.
those two.
Tamina.
Yeah, I would agree that we keep the incumbents. They've done a great job, especially in the past year when we've had some tough decisions to make and some negotiations, and really appreciate their service, both Carol and Will. So I would agree with you there. And then again, the rest of the candidates, everybody's so amazing. This is a really tough decision. I mean, everybody's got a unique quality to how they are already giving back. One, almost all of them are on a committee. And then how much they've been involved, whether it's through events, whether it's through programs or soccer or art club or the art foundation. So I'm like, how do I pick from the best of the best? I would say, between looking at the applications and really knowing, what some of these folks have been doing in the last few years here in San Ramon, and really how they're engaged in some of the questions they answered. I like to keep both of those in sight because, again, they've taken a lot of time filling in those applications. For me, I think 3 people stood out. It was Partha. I really appreciate the program he's been running for years, and really brought a program to San Ramon, which then partnered I'll get this wrong, but Agamoni, I think, is the program. I really appreciate what Patrick's been doing with the virtual arts club. That's been, that's brought a lot of people together, something that we had during COVID that the foundation was able to sponsor and help with. And then we have Steve, who's also been doing a lot with the soccer clubs, and and so has Sean. So I think for me, those 3 are I think my top 3 candidates, and then we'll go from there. And I'm basing this both on what they've been doing really in the past few years in our community, and what how they answered some of the questions today as well. So looking at both their application and their questions today.
Okay, I got to back up a minute. You said the 3, but you also started off with you're okay with the incumbents.
Yes.
Okay. We'll get into talking about that afterwards. Mark or Sridhar, one of you want to unmute and jump in? Sridhar wins by a nose. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Hudson. We are very fortunate as a council as well as a community members to get such an excellent candidates, But then, as Vice Mayor Perkins said, today only 30% can be in and 70% won't. Otherwise, I wish we have all of them so that we can tap all their brains and get the best for our community. But unfortunately, that's how it works. And I'm sure there will be many more openings coming up, as well as in different committees, as well as commissions. So I definitely want to see them keep applying. It's almost like a bond created after 2 interview meetings with them. I feel like I know them in person. So it's amazing that we have such a great, excellent leaders within our community. And thanks for that. So on electing the candidates, there are a few things I would like to consider. One thing is about our master plan update. As you know, the master plan update is just approved, and we need to have some continuity so that they can roll out that plan as we need it. At the same time, we need to have some fresh ideas in the commission. So considering those points, in order to continue to roll out the master plan update and understanding the nuances in detail, we definitely need, I think, Bill as well as Commissioner Dolrick, and Commissioner Lopez Lucy. It's good to have them. Also, another important thing I would consider is about post-COVID pandemic situation, right? So maybe it would have been a little bit different if it is not this situation, but because of this post-COVID pandemic situation, we definitely need some leadership there with experienced leadership. So that's, I agree with Vice Mayor Perkins as well as Council Member Jaffer on that one, that we need to keep them. On the fresh ideas that can bring up, definitely like, once again, it's pretty challenging. For me, Partha is my top pick. The reason is the amount of work he done within the community, the efforts that he put to build a non-profit organization. That's not easy, because as myself who built a non-profit organization in this community, I understand how challenging it is. And then not only that, working with the staff and working with the city council leadership and all that, that experience plays a very important role for a commissioner. So as myself, that's how I got into commission when I was, how I work with the community members, with my grassroots connections. And then I got into, again, created a nonprofit organization serving the community at the same time. In order to make it happen, I had to work with the city council, I had to work with the city staff. So that gives a huge exposure of how you're going to deliver for the community. So that's one reason that I would pick Partha, but otherwise my Ravneet is amazing. She got a lot of good experience. I'm definitely seeing future commissioner, or maybe more than that. And also it is always nice to have a teacher like Sean, so that we can get more youth programs, which I'm very passionate about. And Steve is already serving us in EDAC, and I hope he'll continue that and he'll get bring back more. So, but otherwise, all candidates are amazing. So it's like we are once again very lucky to have them. But otherwise, these are my top choices as of today.
Okay, Mark.
Well, this is really tough tonight, as you all have said. That they're just all so involved and so passionate about being involved in their community and wanting to be on this commission, the things that they can bring to the table. I frankly, it's like I said last time, I think that I learned a lot just listening to their ideas, a lot of creative ideas on how to solve some problems and meet the needs of our diverse community. I was looking for several things. One was somebody to be a real fierce advocate of our parks and our parks system. Also, my question touched on funding, and so that's a big issue to me, since parks and public works and what public works does to support our parks is such a big part of our budget. I was looking for somebody who might demonstrate a kind of a strong commitment to protecting the financing that we have for our parks, especially when in consideration of new developments. I was looking for someone who understood the importance of prioritizing, and I think they all hit on that pretty well. They all talked about the master plan and demonstrated a good understanding of the master plan. So I think that was important. But that whole balance of all the competing priorities with not just our parks, but our roads and our police and everything else, I think touched on me in terms when I started thinking about the whole funding aspect, and a lot of creative ideas out there. So anyway, the incumbents, Will and Carol, I think they bring so much to the table already. Carol, she completely understands the commission already. She's serving, as a chair. She's ready to step in, of course. But I also think that we need fresh ideas too. So I think it's important that we consider some new members for this commission as well. And so I looked at Partha. I thought Partha did a great job, and he demonstrated a real involvement in the community. I liked his answer to Scott's question on, he chose inclusivity. He has been involved in the Agamoni organization and the Durga Puja event. I think he could represent the whole changing demographics of San Ramon in a good way. So I think he brings fresh perspectives. He's got an energy. He's already been involved in library and arts, and I think he would be ready to step in too. I also like Steve Breed. Also his passion. He has, been so involved for the last 25 years. He talked about his involvement with Scouts and Little League and Art and Wind, and I think he probably knows the parks as well as anyone who applied tonight, just because he's been on all the different fields, and he brings, I think, that aspect of the budgeting process. I think that would be good. And he talked about his understanding and how he would meet the changing needs of our community and the diversity. And of course, Will, I think he had probably the most comprehensive answers and the most comprehensive understanding, and was able to clearly articulate, what the Parks Commission is all about. So it's tough. I think we'll get probably to the voting here in a moment, but those are some of the top candidates that I picked out.
Let me see if I can herd the cats for a minute. What I'm hearing, even more than kinda, is at least 4 votes, whether or not they would be the 4 votes for the incumbents. I'm solid behind the incumbents. So let me do this and see if it's okay with everyone. Will we vote? Can we have 3 votes at least to appoint the incumbents? And then we'll get into the third person. Is that okay? I have Sabina and Scott a thumbs up. Mark, are you okay with that? Because you are the only one that I thought maybe no. So you can abstain, or you can.
Yeah, I was waffling a little bit, but I would not oppose that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, none of this is going to be easy, folks. I mean, we'd pick 5 people to take our jobs if you wanted. It's not that tough. And we have been in that situation. But the reality here is it takes 3 votes and there's already 4. So to me, what you just said is probably the logical way. I'm voting for, I have to find a reason almost to take off an incumbent. And it could be as simple as, I mean, we were discussing it the other night. Well, you've been on 24 years, get the heck out of here. But I look ahead on what we have coming up, and I'm not sure that district doesn't even go down to parks eventually, to where that guy was headed. And I see a diversity, not only from what we're calling diversity, from how he figured out the points, but the different parts of the city. And that's what I look at. Is every district going to be represented? I think they are. I also think that when you get into the discussions that are coming up in the next 2 years, one of which you touched on, you have to have somebody that has been through the mistakes. And that's why it goes back to, well, you don't have to go back 24 years, but it goes back to some of the things that we were trying to do that weren't successful, the delays. I mean, how long have we been working on doing something with Gilderman? I mean, Scott, were we doing that before you? I mean, Kirk, they were doing it before me. And a lot of these things. So what were the hangups? What was it? I mean, Ken Mintz had been on there before me, and if he were, is he still on? I don't think so. He's school board. But I mean, I would put him back on, and he's not even a resident anymore. So it really comes down to you're trying to do some mixes. I'm solid behind those 2. It's the third one that we're really going to be discussing. And I kind of approached it as, would I change my vote from the previous time? Because they were close too. And my vote from the previous one is the one that, without going through, because everybody's going to want to hear the same thing, is to pick Partha. I like what the diversity group did. I did not like where I thought it was going, but that report that we got impressed the heck out of me, and we acted on it quickly. I thought that was a big point. I like these groups, the Agamony's not, or Agamony is not the only one. I mean, there's a lot of these new 3-day events similar to what we've been doing with Wind Fair. We used to do it a little bit longer, well, not as long with 4th of July. And they're becoming an important part of the community. And last, I forgot that for my part, he's been on 4 things. That's art, library, diversity, and Agamony, because Sridhar, you're right. I tried to do the 5013C for the Iron Horse Trail. I still think they're looking for us, but it's just not fun to do. Scott, you got your hand up.
Yes, if I had chosen a third name, like some of my peers had done, Partha would have been my third name. And so I find Partha did a really great job in answering the questions, answering my question, and the others. Inclusivity is, to me, is the one that Senator Ramon needs to, that was my priority, is inclusivity. Are we doing everything we can for the, for all our demographics, whether it's old, it's young, it's Asian, it's, you know, it doesn't matter. We make sure that we're touching somewhere on all of our demographics, and we're doing something that supports them and includes them. So, you know, I can support Partha as well.
Let me leave you 3 things, because we're going to have the other 2 discuss. Why it focused to me on Partha, I don't know why everybody thinks that you have to think of a change or whatever, but you had 3 candidates say, you know, we're doing a pretty good job. There are so many awards that Parks and Community Service has received over the years. It's like you think we gave them to ourselves. There are so many on walls and everything everywhere. And when he said it was okay to say we're okay, that's the impression I got. I started really paying attention. The Diversity Coalition, I'm seeing it in so many other places that I really put a lot of weight on that I wasn't putting on the first time. And when he mentioned about the social interaction and how we're going forward after COVID, I mean, I haven't read it to you, and I don't know how many of you are coming to the State of the City, but that's almost straight out of my State of the City speech. So it wasn't easy. I mean, I could have just as soon said Ravid or Steve also. It's just that in this case, maybe more than anything else, was just watching each of them as the others were speaking. And Partha just impressed the heck out of me. So that's how he got my vote.
Can I make a motion then?
You can, unless somebody wants to stop you and chime in. They don't have hands up.
Okay.
Mark has a, go ahead.
We can have discussion after the motion, of course.
Yes.
My motion is to appoint Carol Lopez Lucy, William Dorlick, and Partha Mitra to the Parks Commission for terms through June of 2025.
I can second.
Okay. Now, as a point of order, staff recommends that the City Council review the applicants, conduct the interview for them, and appoint 3 candidates to, oh, wow, am I losing it? I just read it. Thank you, Scott, because for some reason I was seeing expiring June 20. I slipped down 3 or 4. I was thinking, why are we appointing till 2021? All right. So we have a motion and a second. You got it from Perkins and Zafar. Is there any further discussion?
The only other thing I say is, you know, I stated kind of what I was looking for in the candidates. I think they all had it. I think the candidates you've moved to approve have all those characteristics. I was looking for some additional new ideas, but I understand the importance of incumbency and why that's important to kind of have some of the individuals who've been around for a while. And I cannot articulate a reason not to continue to have them serve on the commission. So I can.
That's the reason I didn't. I'm sorry, Mark. That's the reason I didn't speak more, Mark, is because I think you covered it, and so did Scott. It isn't just these 3 appointees; it's the other members, and there's no one with like the 3rd term or 4th term or something like that. So in the next group, when they come up, you know, who knows? Of course, maybe we'll do 9. Sabina, you're in.
Yeah, I was gonna say, honestly, if we had an option, I would do another commission with all the other candidates.
Yeah,
Everybody's been so amazing.
I don't think any of you thought I was kidding when I said, thank you for making it tough on us. It really had to come, similar to with planning, once you decide whether or not you're going to keep the, you know, the institutional knowledge, then you've really got to get down to the nitty gritty. And this wasn't any different than the first time. You just keep finding new things. And I wouldn't have argued with any of you if you'd picked any of the people you mentioned, not one. I just thought you have to make that decision. As Partha stated, well, since you're making me make this decision, Scott, I will pick. But, you know, that's it. And not only that, I look at these people, who knows, 2 years from now, they may be running for one of these seats. And that's what we're looking for. Who is our replacement also? And I think we saw a lot of good candidates. So if there's no further, everybody put themselves on mute. That's why.
Yeah, I was just gonna say thank you for the commitment and the persistence to come back again and really interview, and that shows how committed you are to us, and you know that makes it even harder. But just want to say thank you for that.
Sridhar, you unmuted? You're just waiting for the vote. Okay, Christina, I've dragged this out long enough, and I'm out of wheat thin. So, what's the roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Armstrong,
Yes.
Councilmember Veros,
Yes.
Councilmember Zafar,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Perkins,
Yes.
and Mayor Hudson.
Yes.
Thank you. That was a 5-0 vote.
Okay, once again, thank you very much. For the people that are watching, you will get a formal notice on it again tomorrow. If you haven't gotten enough excitement tonight and love this city council meeting, you can come to the regular one tomorrow night. We start at 7?
Yes.
7, good. Hopefully I'll be there. I thought I had just a little problem with the ear. I'm trying to make an emergency appointment tomorrow and get my hearing back. But in any case, I thank you all for coming out tonight. We'll see you again tomorrow at 7, unless somebody has some last minute great words.
I do.
Go ahead.
Just wanted to wish you all a belated Father's Day.
Thank you very much. Yeah, what a joy. I got to send my son his first Father's Day. Told you about that. Little daughter, born 4/3/21. Anyway, we are adjourned. See you tomorrow night at 7. Night all.
Night.